Kababayan, LA, and we are still inviting you because we still have limited slots available, but you have to call right now. We are leaving on April 1st. We're going to Taiwan. This is the third time that we are doing this, and I would love for you guys, all the viewers, to come join me on this trip. This may be the last because this is the third time that Taiwan Tourist Bureau has partnered with LA18 to bring you Travel to Taiwan Part 3. This time it's an all-new, all-different itinerary, so if you joined us in the first and second tours, don't worry because this one is going to be different. We're going to experience riding on their bullet train, which I hear is very, very high-tech. Also, we are going to visit one of their largest tea plantations, which I hear is very relaxing. We're going to learn how to fly lanterns. There's a rich culture behind that tradition. Also, we're going to learn to cook Taiwanese dishes, and I'd love to share all these experiences with you. We leave on April 1st. That's LA to Taiwan, and then all over Taiwan, we have 5 days there, all accommodations, all meals included, and then you get a chance also, you also have a ticket to the Philippines from Taiwan so that you can visit your relatives in Manila or anywhere else in the Philippines. Meanwhile, back here on Kababayan, LA, spring starts on Wednesday, Spring Fling. So we have a celebrity psychic joining us this afternoon on the show. Thomas John, hello and welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
But before we talk about Spring Flings, let's first talk about, being a psychic. And earlier during the break, you were talking to us about how anyone can develop intuition, because you're saying that being a psychic is, just being someone with a more developed intuition.
Right, that's right. Everybody can be more intuitive and use their intuition to guide them. Most of the time, our intuition, it doesn't lead us wrong. It's when we don't listen to it, or we get anxious, or we get fearful, and we kind of second guess ourselves. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, our gut instinct is correct, and that's just because it's evolutionary. Makes sense that as humans and as animals, that we can guide ourselves quickly rather than having to think through a lot of things.
Like primal instinct, so gut instinct.
Right.
It comes from, how do you know that it's, okay, when we make decisions, they say mm-hmm. it's very important, gut instinct and intuition. Mm-hmm. But how do we know that it's coming from our gut and not from our mind, from our fears, like you said?
Well, it should be your first impression, and what a psychic does is they develop their abilities in a way that's sort of different from the senses. So they base things based on how they feel about something, not necessarily a thought that they have. They base it on a certain sense that they get of something rather than factually checking everything. And that's not to say that you shouldn't do a research if you're trying to buy a home or get into a relationship or look at things, but you should always let your instinct guide your decisions.
Right, and because if we let our instinct guide our decisions, that's going to be very important. We can also develop our intuition
first, correct,
right?
Yes.
And you're saying here, everyday practice. How do you practice being led by your intuition?
Well, one of the things that I tell people, I teach classes about developing your intuition, and one of the things I tell people is that it's just like going to the gym, for example. If you want to become more physically fit, rather than going to the gym one day a month for 6 hours, it's better to go, 5 days a week for an hour. And so it's the same thing with developing your intuition. You want to do things to practice it. One of the things you can do is be more creative. You can do things, actual exercises where you sort of, try to get impressions about your friends or practice on certain situations. But it's important that kind of every day you tap into it in some way.
And I'm guessing that it should be a conscious effort on your part too.
Yeah, and it's just you have to be mindful of doing it. Like my sister is actually trying to be more intuitive about stuff. So one thing she'll do is when her cell phone rings, instead of looking at it first, she'll try to guess who it is calling.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And being mindful, I hear about this a lot. Meditation helps you become mindful.
Right, and one of the things that people don't understand is a lot of people, you think meditation, you think about, being on the mountain with, for 3 hours meditating. That's not always the case. Sometimes you can meditate when you're cleaning your house. Sometimes you can do, it's just washing dishes, going for a walk. One of my friends meditates when he's on a walk a lot. So it's more about finding a time where you're really calming your senses and not letting, you're not distracted. You don't have the kids around. You got the phone off. You've got the Facebook off. And you're really just focusing on just kind of being with yourself. That's a form of meditation.
When you focus, you're being specific as well, right? How does being specific help us in developing our intuition?
Well, one of the things that I tell people about your intuition is as far as being specific is sometimes it's important to you want to really focus. It's just like, for example, when I do a reading with someone, rather than have someone come to me and say, okay, what do you see? I mean, that could go in 10 different directions. I try to have people have a specific question or a specific area they want to look into. So it's the same with you. Try to be more intuitive in your work life, or try to be more intuitive in your relationship. You know, you want to focus your energy towards one area at first.
And speaking of relationships, that's what we're going to be focusing on in the next block, because Thomas is going to give us his predictions on our favorite celebrity couples, spring flings, hookups, and breakups and all that. You wouldn't want to miss that. Don't go away.